I'm ranking every major GLP-1 medication from S tier to the bottom, and I'm not holding back, because Ozempic, Wegovy, Mounjaro, and Zepbound are not the same drug. Some are genuinely life-changing. Others are overpriced, overhyped, or come with side effects your doctor probably didn't mention. I'm Jared. I'm a registered nurse with 16 years of experience in the ICU, and I reversed my own type 2 diabetes after being told medication was my only option. I've worked with thousands of real patients, and I've seen what actually happens when the clinical trial ends and real life begins. By the end of this video, you'll know exactly which medication earns the S tier and which ones you should seriously think twice about. But first, if you're trying to lower your blood sugar without medication, grab my free guide, 6 Steps to Reverse Diabetes Naturally. It's the same framework I used personally. The link is in the description below. All right, let's rank these drugs. But before we start handing out letter grades, we need to answer one question most people never ask. What actually makes one GLP-1 better than another? Because a lot of people assume these medications are basically interchangeable. They're not. And assuming that is one of the most expensive mistakes a patient can make, both for their health and for their wallet. Think of it like this. A Ford F-150 and a Lamborghini are both vehicles, but they're built for completely different purposes and deliver completely different results, not even close to the same performance. So I ranked each drug on 4 criteria that actually matter for real patients. 1, A1C reduction. How much does it actually lower blood sugar? 2, weight loss, because excess weight drives insulin resistance, and insulin resistance drives diabetes. 3, side effects. Nausea, vomiting, and digestive issues are far more common with these drugs than the commercials suggest. 4, long-term sustainability. Cost, insurance coverage, dosing schedule, because the best medication is the one you can actually stay on. So with that framework locked in, let's start at the bottom. D tier, the originals. Every revolution has a starting point. For GLP-1 medications, these were it. When Byetta and Adaxan hit the market, they were genuinely exciting. For the first time, doctors had a diabetes medication that lowered blood sugar without causing dangerous hypoglycemia. That was a real breakthrough. But medicine moved forward, and these drugs didn't. So D tier, Byetta, and Adaxan. They still work, but compared to what's available today, they deliver smaller A1C reductions, minimal weight loss, and require more frequent dosing. Most endocrinologists won't start a new patient on these drugs unless every other option is off the table. So in my opinion, they belong in the history books more than the pharmacy. C tier, the pill that sounds better than it is. Here's a question I hear constantly from patients, those who hate needles. Can I just take a pill? The answer is yes, but there's a real trade-off that nobody talks about. Rybelsus is the only oral GLP-1 on the market. It uses the same active ingredient as Ozempic, semaglutide. So you'd expect similar results, right? Not quite. The digestive process breaks down a significant portion of the medication before it reaches your bloodstream. That means Rybelsus consistently produces less weight loss and smaller A1C reductions than its injectable counterpart. So for someone with severe needle phobia, it may be the right starting point. But if you're choosing it expecting Ozempic results in pill form, you'll probably be disappointed. Convenient? Yes. Powerful? Not quite. Okay, B tier. These are the formal gold standard. For years, these were the medications doctors reached for first, and for a good reason. They worked. They had years of safety data behind them, and they did something older diabetes drugs couldn't. They actually lowered the risk of heart attack and stroke. That was a massive deal. So B tier, Trulicity, Victoza. Now, Victoza in particular was a landmark medication. It was one of the first diabetes drugs ever proven in a major clinical trial to reduce cardiovascular events. That data changed how doctors think about how they treat diabetes. Now, these drugs still hold up. Solid A1C reductions, moderate weight loss, strong heart benefits. If someone is on one of these and tolerating it well, there's often no urgent reason to switch. But then, a new molecule came along and raised the bar significantly. That brings us to A tier, the drug that changed everything. There may be 3 or 4 moments in the last 20 years where a single medication genuinely shifted how the medical community thinks about a disease. Semaglutide was one of them. When Ozempic hit the market and the clinical data started coming in, doctors couldn't ignore what they were seeing. A1C reductions that dwarfed older medications, weight loss numbers that had previously only been achieved with bariatric surgery, and metabolic improvements that reached far beyond blood sugar. So A tier, Ozempic. Semaglutide, approved for type 2 diabetes, or Wegovy, semaglutide, approved for weight loss. Same molecule, different FDA indications and dosing protocols. Ozempic became one of the most prescribed medications in the world, almost overnight, not because of clever marketing, but because patients and doctors saw real results. But here's what most people don't know. There's now a drug that has beaten semaglutide in every major head-to-head trial, and that brings us to S tier, the current leader. Researchers asked a simple but powerful question. What if instead of activating one metabolic hormone pathway, we activated two? The answer to that question is tirzepatide, and it changed the game. So this is our S tier. Mounjaro, tirzepatide, approved for type 2 diabetes, and Zepbound, tirzepatide, approved for weight loss. While semaglutide activates the GLP-1 receptor, tirzepatide activates both GLP-1 and GIP, two distinct hormones that regulate blood sugar, appetite, and fat metabolism. The clinical trial results have been very strong. Greater A1C reduction than semaglutide, greater average weight loss than semaglutide, and improved insulin sensitivity across the board. In the Surpass and Surmount trial programs, tirzepatide consistently outperformed every previous standard. Some participants in the highest dose groups lost over 20% of their body weight. That's the S tier, and tirzepatide has earned it. The most important thing I'll say in this video is something that matters more than any of my rankings. The most powerful medication on the market is not automatically the right one for you. The best medication is the one your body tolerates, your doctor recommends, and your insurance actually covers. Some patients do remarkably well on B-tier medications and struggle on S-tier ones because the individual response varies more than most people realize. More importantly, every one of these medications works better when it's paired with the lifestyle changes that address insulin resistance at the root. I'm talking about real food, resistance training, quality sleep, stress management, daily movement. Medication can lower your A1C. Lifestyle change can reverse the disease. If you want the framework I use to reverse my own type 2 diabetes, the same one I now teach my coaching clients, download my free guide, 6 Steps to Reverse Diabetes Naturally. I linked it in the description. And if you want to know the single biggest mistake people make when trying to lower their A1C, even when they're doing everything else right, watch this next video. It might change how you approach this completely. I'll see you there. I just want to remind everyone that this video is for educational purposes only and does not constitute medical advice. Always consult your healthcare provider before making any changes or medication decisions.